Thank you so much. We're going to get started with post 1 at large. We have 2 of the 3 candidates here. To my far right, we have Matt Rinker, and then next to him is Juan Mendoza. The missing person is the current council member, Michael Bond. And with that, if we are ready to start, oh yes, that's much better, thank you. If we are ready, we're gonna jump right in, okay? And do I need to go over ground rules? Do you all remember this?
We're good.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. The first question is, how would you ensure students and young people have safe, accessible, and affordable options to get to school, work, and play? Sorry, we can start with you and then go over.
Yeah, so we have to create the programs in the school system to start early, right? What we're trying to create is bike riders for the future. And so starting at a very young age, investing from the budget standpoint to get that, not only for the infrastructure, but also having the ability for them to be able to have access to the equipment, to be able to buy bikes, to be able to have the equipment that the parents may not be able to fund that, especially in communities that rely heavily more on public or on bikes. And so making sure we're investing those, getting in touch with the PTAs, making sure that for the young, the age demographics that are able to actually get involved, making sure that we are coming out to engage with them. Like town hall should be focused on for the youth, and it shouldn't always just be after hours for parents. And so just making sure that, and how do we make it interesting? How do we make it cool, right? What are things that, like the West Side or the Beltline uses the Big Tigga, right? To bring, and you see a massive crowd of kids. So really getting in tune with what are the people that they idolize and will gravitate to as an example to ride bikes.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with a lot of what Juan has said. We have to start young, getting ridership on our public transit and through bikes and that kind of stuff very early. I grew up in Northern Virginia, and when our school went on field trips, we took the metro to the destination. So it's getting those kids buy-in young so they know that it's a viable option as they get older, and getting APS to utilize the system more, as well as expanding things like the bike bus program and those to build those ideas that this is a viable option for me. I'm not stuck just in my parents' car or something like that, so that they have that ownership and being involved in the system.
Thank you. A topic we have not discussed tonight is the connection between transportation and mobility options and climate. And so I'd be curious to hear, as a council member, if you're elected, how would you work with the Mayor's Office of Sustainability, and what legislation would you specifically pass to address the climate crisis in Atlanta?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very proud to have been endorsed by the Georgia Conservation Voters Group because of my ideas for conservation issues. Number one, it's making sure that we have viable transit options so that we have less cars on the road to begin with. The second thing is, whenever we approve a gas station to be built in this city, we need to have EV charging stations at those gas stations as well as requirements, so that people have the incentives to go to a more efficient route. I'm an EV driver myself, so driving around trying to find somewhere to plug in can be daunting, and so that is a hindrance people do. The other pieces of conservation that would be is making sure we have smart asphalt that are less environmentally hazardous, and making sure that it's bringing down the heat islands that we have throughout the city as well.
For sustainability, so we have to, one, get rid of parking minimums citywide, right? Get cars off the road, let developers have the ability not to have to do one-to-one bedroom ratios, and that'll open up. Making sure that, even to lawnmowers and leaf blowers, right? That's something, I talked to a voter, and that's something that's a very good idea as well. So looking at, and from an infrastructure standpoint, we have so many streets, so many communities, specifically on the south and west side, that have major heat islands. And Atlanta has experienced 2 longer weeks of heat indexes, major heat indexes, heat waves, and a lot of that is because we're not investing in the green infrastructure. We're not making sure that we're providing incentives for individuals to retrofit their homes with solar panels, for commercial properties to retrofit for different sustainable options out there. And I think that's where we can do public-private partnerships to flip that. That will go into the infrastructure, and making sure when developments come that we actually have, as we reduce the permeable space, that we're making sure that we're putting that back into the community.
Thank you so much. The next question is, if elected, how will you ensure that youth have a real voice in shaping Atlanta's transportation policies from street design to budget priorities? And then we can start with you, Quan.
Was it youth or you?
Youth.
One more. Could you repeat the question one more time?
If elected, how will you ensure that youth, have a real voice in shaping Atlanta's transportation policies from street design to budget priorities?
I thought we hit that earlier, didn't we? With the youth and...
No, I think we talked about how we will ensure safe, accessible, affordable options to us, but not how our voices will be heard.
Oh, I'm sorry. I definitely, when I was talking about the youth town halls and stuff, that's definitely what, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
I mean, we can lean back into it, right? Making sure the youth, right? Like I said, the access for, like when we think of town halls, right? And getting people civically engaged, especially for the community, it's a lot of the adults, right? So how do we make sure we're creating town hall spaces for individuals, the youth, to be able to voice their opinion, those that have the capacity. Again, the youth in terms of investing in the school system, making sure that there's actual programs, safety programs, and access to equipment, helmets you'll get if you complete the safety class and you get a helmet, right? And using, again, individuals that they gravitate to. We have to make this cool for them to want to get engaged. And I think those are some ideas that will get the youth getting tapped into the PTA, where they are being able to connect with us as well and bring those kids out to the public engagement.
Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I would do is have a youth council. So it's the youth city council, one representative at least from each of the 12 districts that are advising us on youth ideas and issues to help them, have a voice in our system. So making sure that we have that. Schools have Model UN. We should have that on the city level as well, so that they can have those voices to tell us. They're also the ones out on the streets all the time, so they have the opportunity to show us, hey, this is working for me, and give us that feedback in real time versus, hearing it once they turn 18.
Someone sent me the same question twice because I hadn't asked it yet. So they're persistent. We appreciate that. We talked about this in the last District 2 candidates. So I think about this as someone who takes MARTA regularly. I often experience people on the system who were unhoused. I'm fine with it. I recognize that a lot of people are not comfortable with it. So there are a number of things that MARTA is doing and the city is doing, but as an at-large council member, where you're touching, MARTA stops across the city, how would you work with both the agency, the city of Atlanta, and our housing organizations to address that challenge?
I think baking that into the intergovernment agreement, the IGA, along with other things, right? But making that an actual focus through the IGA, and how are we going to implement a plan to take care of that unsheltered problem. Making sure, I president of the Old Fourth Ward Business Association, one of the things I'm proud to work alongside was Councilman Bakhtiari and expand that Mercy and Care housing program. And what that is case management. And so there are a lot of individuals that do not want the resources of a hotbed and a hot meal. So incorporating some of that case management into the MARTA, expanding that into there. And I do know that all major cities have unsheltered individuals on the transit, right? But a lot of the problem is the trains aren't full. And so that seems like a bigger perception of public safety, or more of a challenge than it is. If we start filling the trains, start filling the buses, have more activity inside the train stations, that will by default decrease some of that perception.
Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also a big proponent of expanding our police alternative diversions program, PAD services. And so part of having that contract with MARTA to allow PAD to come and resource there as well. So it's not just relying on MARTA police to then kick somebody off the train. It's also to get those services to them so they find that those services, so they don't have to come back to find that space. MARTA, perception is reality, and people feel it's not safe. In reality, in 2024, there were only just over 200 Part 1 crimes on MARTA throughout the system. That's very low numbers. We have to change the perception so that when people do see a homeless person or an unhoused person on the MARTA train, they're not scared of it, that it's going to result in a crime. And so those would be the big things, expanding those PAD services so that they can get those services.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to our rapid round questions. I don't know if you heard the rules before, but you'll get 15 seconds to answer a question, and then again, Amaya is our time checker. So the first question is, what is the #1 transportation/mobility challenge you feel like is facing your district? And then we can start with you. And then
It is rail on the Beltline. We've got to get it done. Right now, we're ready for construction to start. We cannot delay it. I'm president of the Peoplestown Neighborhood Association. We're decades away from rail being on the south side.
It's financing. It's the budget to do that. Rail is $3.5 billion, and then we also have to have resources to actually invest in communities that have not been invested in infrastructure-wise for 30, 40 years, and that's primarily the south and west side. So for me, it's fiscal. As a citywide thing, having the budget to actually support all of the infrastructure needs, transit needs that we have.
thank you. The next question is, what's the boldest transportation idea you would champion on council if you knew you'd get the votes to pass it? And then we can start with you, Juan. And
Yeah. So I do want to add, I've been endorsed by Propel ATL. I've been endorsed by Abundant Housing and a lot of other great organizations. But my pie in the sky idea for rail is rail on the Beltline, but elevated rail. And that's an idea from like the Chicago Loop. What an amazing vision to have that going across the 20 mile loop if I had that capacity. And it also allows for the separate the wheels from the hills. We're not cutting down trees. We're not displacing businesses.
Okay.
Well, like Juan, mine is rail along the Beltline. I have the second highest score as a pro-transit candidate from Beltline Rail now. So it would be robustly doing that and then having cross connectivity, not just around the Beltline, but throughout the city.
I'm going to make this a yes or no question, and then we'll see what happens. Do you think that Atlanta police should devote more traffic enforcement along the Vision Zero corridors?
Yes.
Yes.
You hesitated.
The challenge is right now is we put the enforcement on APD, and that's why we are not able to enforce so quickly when cars are parked in bike lanes, when cars are double parked in deliveries. The challenge is that we're putting those resources on APD, and so for me, it's looking at outsourcing that like other municipalities do.
Can I expand?
When you say I just want to make sure I'm clear. When you say outsourcing it, who would you outsource it to?
So there's programs, right, where you can get them pretty much to a level where they can enforce, right, but they just don't have the same capacity of PD. So bringing more individuals, personnel that are able to enforce that don't have to be post-certified.
Got it. Matt, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I would just say it's also how we're policing. So on pushing for the state legislature to allow for more cameras, camera policing. Right now, we just fought to have cameras on the BRT line through the Summerhill line, and it took a lot to get that done, so it would be expanding that so that we could have viable options so they're not having to get out of their car to do it.
But we are the most surveilled city in America.
Yep, it's how we do it, and it's making sure that it's you're aware of it, so when it is a dedicated bus line or a bike lane or something like that, there's notifications that, violators will be ticketed via camera.
Okay. And then one more rapid fire question. I'm going to also make this a yes, no, and we'll see what happens. Do you support the mayor's proposal to extend the tax allocation districts to 2055? Crickets.
That's a hard yes or no, but I'll give you an answer for this point in time. That's a tough yes or no, but
if you were on council and you had to vote, what would you vote?
to approve the TAS today, if the vote was on the table today, no.
I don't think it should be before the next council gets seated, and my vote would be no if it was today.
I think there's a push to have it done before the next council is seated.
Yep.
We should definitely lean into the TAD.
Tell me more.
So I went to, look, our opponent is just introduced an ordinance a week and a half ago to extend the TADs. This is something that we do not have to figure out today, especially as we face a $30 million budget shortfall. We're losing federal dollars. We're losing state dollars. We lost $38 million from the aviation budget. But yet, we have to figure this out today. So there's not enough data. There's not enough, it's a copy and paste ordinance. There's no additional oversight. And so it's very, look, I'm a commercial banker. I went to UGA's executive banking school. This is bad fiscal policy. It's egregiously irresponsible to try to shove this down. And the reason we know why is because there's going to be a new council class, and that will be a lot harder to get those TADs through.
Yeah, and as the president of a neighborhood that sits within two, the Beltline TAD and the Stadium TAD, we haven't seen the projects come to fruition. We've seen it in some areas like Atlantic Station, which has been a good example of it, but there have been so many others that have been overpromised and underdelivered, and I don't think the public has been given enough information to extend this out another 25 years. And you're starting to become a program where we're pitting neighborhood versus neighborhood, and it needs to make sure that it's truly doing what the TADs are supposed to do.
Okay. I thank you for indulging with me on that question. Thank you all for being here tonight, for listening to the candidates share their perspective on how the city should move forward. We will be back here in the same spot Thursday, October 23rd at 6 p.m. That forum will be District 9, District 11, and Atlanta City Council President. And then on October 29th, we will do candidate karaoke, which will be quite entertaining. Do you have a song ready? What are you doing?
Working through the playlist.
Okay, I'm expecting something good. With that, you can visit let'spropelatl.org/forums for more details. And then again, Atlanta Civic Circle has done a candidate questionnaire with all these candidates. There are a number of transportation questions, housing, participatory budgeting, how the candidates would invest in arts and culture. A lot of interesting topics. You can go to atlantaciviccircle.org to see the candidates' responses to those questions. And I know that both of you all have responded, so thank you for that. Audience, give yourselves a round of applause for being engaged residents. Fantastic. If you come on Thursday, I'm going to treat this like church. If you come on Thursday, bring a friend, bring a family member, and let's make sure that folks are engaged and know about these elections this November. Thank you.